You've probably heard the saying that a woman's feelings can change like the weather, and at first, that can sound frustrating or even confusing. But let's pause for a second and really think about that. Weather is natural. Weather isn't good or bad, it just is. It doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't stop to explain itself. It doesn't apologize for shifting from sunshine to rain. It simply moves. It simply changes. And in the same way, a woman's emotions aren't built on logic charts or spreadsheets. They're built on feelings, and feelings are alive, constantly shifting, just like the patterns in the sky. Here's the mistake a lot of men, we try to treat emotions like logic. We think if something doesn't add up, then it shouldn't exist. We want a direct cause and effect equation that always makes sense. But emotions don't work that way. They're not designed to. They're not math problems, they're weather systems. And if you expect them to behave like logic, you're always going to find yourself upset, confused, or even resentful. Think about it like this. When it rains, do you sit outside and argue with the sky? Do you get mad at the clouds because they're not letting the sun shine through? Of course not. You grab an umbrella, or you stay inside, or maybe you even enjoy the rain. You adapt because you know the weather isn't something you control. It's something you adjust to. That's exactly how you have to approach a woman's shifting emotions. They're not a problem to be solved. They're a reality to be understood. Now, here's the beauty of that perspective. Once you stop resisting the changes, you actually start to see the value in them. Because just like the weather, emotions keep things alive, fresh, and real. If every day was 75 degrees and sunny, you'd get bored of it. If every emotion was calm and steady, the relationship would feel flat, lifeless. The sunshine means more because the rain exists. The warmth of her affection means more because sometimes there are storms. And if you can appreciate that instead of resenting it, you stop being thrown off by the changes and start being grounded in them. The other thing to remember is that just like the weather, emotions don't stay forever. Feelings come and go. What feels like a storm today can pass tomorrow. And if you're the kind of man who can stay calm, steady, and unshaken during those emotional shifts, she's going to see you as that safe ground beneath her feet. That's where respect comes from. That's where attraction deepens. Because deep down, she doesn't actually expect you to change the weather. She expects you to remain solid while the weather changes around you. Here's where a lot of guys trip up. They take her changing emotions personally. They think, well, yesterday she was affectionate. Today she's distant. Did I do something wrong? Or, she said she wanted this. Now she says she doesn't. She must be confused, or she's playing games. No. She's not confused. She's not playing games. She's being human. Her emotions shift. Her desires flow with those emotions. And you can either fight it or accept it. Fighting it makes you insecure, needy, and reactive. Accepting it makes you confident, strong, and attractive. It's almost funny when you think about it. So many men spend years trying to figure women out, reading book after book, looking for a formula or a secret code. And the truth is, the code is simple. Stop treating emotions like logic. Stop expecting her to feel today the exact way she felt yesterday. Stop demanding that every change has an explanation. Weather doesn't explain itself, and neither do emotions. And that's okay. When you embrace that truth, relationships get lighter. The tension fades. You don't panic when she's distant. You don't over-celebrate when she's affectionate. You ride the wave. You let the storm pass. You enjoy the sunshine when it's there, and you don't make a big deal when the rain shows up. You adapt, you adjust, you flow. And that steadiness, that calm presence, that's what makes a woman feel safe, loved, and drawn to you in the long run. So the next time you feel yourself getting frustrated by the sudden change in her mood, pause. Take a step back. Remind yourself, this isn't a problem to solve. It's just weather. And just like every storm before it, this one will pass too. That's where your strength lies. That's where your peace lies. And that's the difference between a man who gets shaken by every cloud in the sky and a man who becomes the steady ground she can always trust to stand on. Do you want me to continue expanding each key point one by one in this same live delivery, motivational style, until we build the full-length speech? If you really want to understand why a woman's feelings shift the way they do, you have to go deeper than just the moods. You have to understand what's driving those moods underneath. And here's the truth. Every woman has two layers inside her. One layer is her emotions in the moment, like the weather. That's what you see. That's what you feel when you're around her. But underneath that is the climate. The climate is her sense of security, her sense of being loved, valued, and safe. That's the foundation. And when that foundation feels solid, her emotions move in a much more peaceful way. But when that foundation feels shaky, her emotional forecast gets unpredictable, stormy, even chaotic. Think about it like this. You could be standing in a country with a tropical climate, and yeah, maybe you get some rain showers, but the overall atmosphere is warm, inviting, safe. Now compare that with standing in a desert climate where the heat is brutal during the day and freezing at night, and storms can show up without warning. Same idea applies with women. If her inner climate is built on security, her emotions might still change like weather, but it's weather you can handle. If her climate is built on insecurity, you're going to be dealing with extremes that feel overwhelming. And here's where a lot of men miss it. They think security just means money or a roof over her head or physical safety. Sure, those things matter, but emotional security is the real key. Emotional security is when she knows, without a doubt, that she is valued, seen, and heard. That she's not being taken for granted. That she can relax into your presence because you're steady. That's the kind of security that calms storms before they even begin. Let me give you an example. Imagine a woman whose partner is always present, who shows her with consistency through action, not just words, that she's important. He listens when she talks. He notices the small things. He doesn't pull away when she's emotional. Even if she has a bad day or gets moody, the overall climate is secure, so her emotions don't spin out of control. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine a woman whose partner is distracted, inconsistent, or dismissive. He doesn't pay attention until there's a problem. He pulls away when she needs reassurance. He assumes everything's fine without checking in. What happens? The climate shifts. She no longer feels grounded. And now her emotions start reacting in bigger, louder ways. This is why you can never just look at the surface and think, oh, she's just being moody. No, her mood is telling you something about the climate. It's a reflection of how safe or unsafe she feels in that moment. And the powerful thing is, as a man, you have the ability to influence that climate, not control it, but influence it. You can either add warmth and stability, or you can add coldness and distance. And whichever one you choose, the forecast is going to reflect it. Now, here's what makes the biggest difference. Most guys think they have to fix the emotion that's showing up. She's upset, so they rush to give solutions. She's distant, so they chase harder. But often, the solution isn't in fixing the surface, it's in addressing the climate beneath it. When she feels secure, the surface storms calm down on their own. When she doesn't, no amount of quick fixes will solve the problem. You can't keep bailing water from a sinking boat if you don't patch the hole underneath. This is why consistency matters more than grand gestures. Flowers once in a while don't mean much if your daily presence feels distracted. Saying, "I love you," doesn't carry weight if your actions don't back it up. Women are tuned into the climate, not just the words. They sense if they're truly secure with you or not. And when they feel that, their emotional world becomes a place you actually want to be, not a battlefield you want to avoid. The takeaway is simple, but powerful. Her emotions may change like the weather, but the climate determines what kind of weather you'll be dealing with. If she feels safe, valued, and loved, her changes feel light, natural, even beautiful, like a summer breeze passing through. If she feels neglected or insecure, those changes feel heavy, draining, like a storm you can't escape. And the man who understands this doesn't waste his energy fighting the weather. He invests his energy in building the climate. So when you catch yourself frustrated by the emotional shifts, stop asking, "Why is she like this right now?" And start asking, "What's the climate she's living in with me?" Because when a woman feels secure, the forecast may still change, but it will always return to calm skies. And that's when she can fully relax into you, trust you, and give you the kind of love most men spend their whole lives chasing. If you think about it, a woman's emotional world is like a mirror reflecting the level of connection she feels with you. When she feels close, when she feels like she's emotionally tied to you in a real way, her mood is lighter, her energy is warmer, her presence is inviting. But when that connection weakens, when she feels like she's alone in the relationship, unseen or unheard, that's when the clouds start to roll in. That's when the emotional weather shifts into something stormier. Connection is the real determining factor. It's not about perfection. It's not about always saying the right thing or doing the big dramatic gestures. It's about whether or not she feels truly connected to you in the everyday moments. Think about how powerful that is. You could be giving her gifts, taking her on trips, providing all the physical comforts in the world. But if she doesn't feel connected to you, none of that matters. On the flip side, you could be sitting on a couch with no money in your pocket, no fancy plans on the calendar. But if she feels deeply connected to you in that moment, her heart is at peace. That's how important connection is. It's the difference between her emotional world being calm or chaotic. The thing is, connection doesn't happen automatically. It's not something you check off once and assume it lasts forever. Connection has to be nurtured, maintained, and renewed every single day. And it's usually the small things that make the biggest impact. Listening without trying to fix. Noticing when she's quiet and asking, "What's on your mind?" Holding her hand, giving her your full attention when she speaks. Those little acts tell her, without words, "I see you. You matter. You're not alone." That's what builds connection. And that's what calms her emotional storms before they even arrive. Now, here's where men often miss the mark. We get caught up in tasks, responsibilities, work, stress, and we assume that just being in the same house equals connection. But presence and connection aren't the same thing. You can be physically present, but emotionally absent. You can sit at the same dinner table, scrolling through your phone, and wonder why she feels distant. She doesn't feel distant because she's moody. She feels distant because the connection is weak, and her emotions are responding to that lack of closeness. What you've got to understand is that a woman thrives on connection. That's her fuel. When she feels connected, her emotions naturally flow in a more positive direction. Her desires for love, intimacy, and partnership open up. But when she feels disconnected, those desires close off and her emotions respond in a way that looks confusing to us. One day she's all in, affectionate and loving, and the next she seems withdrawn. 9 times out of 10, that shift has less to do with her being unpredictable and more to do with her not feeling connected in that moment. And here's the beautiful part. Connection is something you have the power to influence every single day. It doesn't take money. It doesn't take hours of your time. It takes intention. It takes awareness. It takes choosing to show up in a way that says, I value you. I care about how you feel. I'm not just here, I'm with you. That's how you build trust. And that's how you create a space where her emotions can move without turning into storms that wreck the relationship. The more connected she feels, the more consistent her affection becomes. The more consistent her affection is, the more confident you feel. And the more confident you feel, the steadier you show up. It's a cycle, and it starts with connection. Without it, everything gets shaky. With it, everything flows. So instead of focusing on how unpredictable she seems, shift your focus to how connected she feels. Ask yourself, am I showing up in ways that strengthen the bond, or am I checking out and expecting it to maintain itself? Because the truth is, connection doesn't maintain itself. It requires effort, and it requires presence. But the reward is massive. When she feels connected, her emotional world feels like sunshine breaking through after a storm. That's when her love pours out freely, when her energy feels light, when the relationship feels effortless. At the end of the day, it all comes back to this. Her feelings and desires may shift like the weather, but the strength of your connection decides what kind of weather you'll face. Stay disconnected, and you'll deal with storms you don't understand. Stay connected, and even when the clouds appear, the sun never stays hidden for long. And that's the kind of relationship every man secretly wants, the kind where love flows naturally because connection is always the anchor. Something most men struggle to accept is that a woman's desires are not fixed. They move, they shift, they flow with how she feels in the moment. And that can be confusing if you're looking at her through the lens of logic. One day she wants closeness, affection, intimacy. The next day she wants space, independence, or quiet. One moment she's craving deep conversation. The next she just wants to be held without saying a word. If you approach that with a logical expectation that she should always want the same things, you're going to end up frustrated. But when you see it as natural, as part of the rhythm of her emotional world, it starts making sense. Think of it like the temperature outside. It's not the same in the morning as it is in the afternoon. It changes based on the time, the conditions, the season. But you don't fight that, do you? You don't wake up on a cold morning and get angry that it's not hot outside. You adjust, you put on a jacket, or you start the heater. You flow with it. That's exactly how you have to look at a woman's shifting desires. They're not a problem. They're simply a reflection of how she feels at that point in time. And here's what's important. Her desires are always connected to her emotions. When she feels loved, safe, and connected to you, her desires naturally open up. She wants to be close. She wants to give. She wants to share. But when she feels disconnected, taken for granted, or uncertain, her desires close off. She pulls back, she creates distance, she protects herself. It's not because she's unpredictable or hard to understand. It's because her emotions are dictating her desires. A lot of men misinterpret this. They see her pull back and they assume she's lost interest. Or they see her asking for space and think it means the relationship is falling apart. But most of the time, it's not about that at all. It's simply her responding to her emotional state in that moment. When she feels good, she leans in. When she doesn't, she leans out. The problem comes when men take it personally and start reacting out of fear. They chase harder when she leans away, or they withdraw when she doesn't seem interested. Both of those responses only make things worse. The right approach is to stay steady, to understand that her desires will change like the temperature, and to adjust without losing your balance. If she needs closeness, give it freely without hesitation. If she needs space, respect it without feeling rejected. When you can do that, she feels safe to let her desires flow naturally because she knows you won't overreact when they shift. And the more she feels that safety, the more consistent her affection and love will become over time. This is where maturity comes in. Immature men expect consistency in ways that aren't realistic. They want her to always be affectionate, always be available, always want the same things. But life doesn't work that way. Nobody's desires stay fixed, and especially not someone who is deeply connected to her emotions. Mature men understand that desires ebb and flow, and they don't panic when the tide goes out. They trust it will come back in. That trust is what keeps them steady. When you start seeing her desires as reflections of her feelings instead of judgments of you, everything changes. You stop feeling insecure when she pulls back because you know it's not always about you. It's about how she feels in that moment. You stop over-celebrating when she leans in because you know that too is a natural part of the rhythm. You start enjoying the flow instead of fighting it. And in that steadiness, she finds the grounding she needs to come back closer again and again. At the heart of it, women don't need men who react to every change in their desires. They need men who can adapt without losing themselves. Because if you think about it, desire that's constant isn't desire at all. It's routine. What makes her love feel alive is the fact that it shifts with her emotions. It keeps things real. It keeps things fresh. And when you're strong enough to handle that without fear, she relaxes into you in a way that creates the very thing you've been wanting all along. A love that feels natural, effortless, and deeply alive. So instead of wishing her desires were predictable, learn to embrace the unpredictability. It's not a threat. It's part of what makes her human, part of what makes her exciting, part of what makes love with her something worth experiencing. Because at the end of the day, her desires may shift like the temperature, but when you stay steady in the seasons, you become the one constant she never wants to lose. One of the biggest mistakes men make in relationships is resisting a woman's emotions. She's upset, and instead of letting her feel it, he tries to shut it down. She's quiet, and instead of giving her space, he pressures her to talk. She's distant, and he chases harder, desperate to pull her back in. But here's the truth. Resisting her emotions only makes them stronger. It's like standing in the middle of a storm and yelling at the clouds to stop raining. The more you fight it, the worse it feels. But when you accept it, when you understand that emotions are meant to move through like weather, everything softens. Acceptance doesn't mean you agree with every mood she has. It doesn't mean you have to like it when she's upset or distant. What it means is you stop trying to control it. You stop treating her feelings like they're a threat to your stability. Instead, you allow them to exist without taking them personally. That's the key. Because the moment you make her emotions about you, You start reacting from insecurity. You start defending, attacking, or retreating. And none of those responses create closeness. They all create more distance. But when you accept her emotions, you show strength. You show that you're not afraid of her storms. You're not running from her rain. You're not trying to stop her thunder. You're just steady, letting it pass. And the amazing thing is, most storms don't last that long. Feelings move. Moods shift. What feels overwhelming in the moment can dissolve in an hour, sometimes in minutes. If she feels like you're not resisting her, just knowing she's allowed to feel without being judged or shut down makes the storm move faster. Think about it from her perspective. Imagine she's carrying a heavy emotional load and she comes to you with it. If your response is to push it away, ignore it, or argue with it, what does that tell her? It tells her she's alone in her feelings. It tells her she can't bring her storms to you. And when that happens, she starts bottling things up, building walls, and pulling away emotionally. But if she knows she can bring her emotions to you and you won't freak out, she feels safe. And when she feels safe, her storm passes faster and she naturally leans back toward closeness again. Now, I know what some guys are thinking, but what if she's being unfair? What if she's emotional about something that doesn't make sense? Here's the reality. Emotions don't need to make sense to be real. They don't need logic to be valid. You can't argue someone out of their feelings. If you've ever tried, you know it doesn't work. All it does is make the person dig deeper into their position. The best response isn't to argue, it's to listen, to stay calm, to let the emotion flow until it passes. And once it does, that's when you can have a logical conversation if it's needed. But logic never works in the middle of an emotional storm. Presence does. It takes real strength to stand steady when someone you love is emotional, because your instinct is to fix it. Your instinct is to do something, anything, to make it stop. But real strength is in restraint. It's in holding steady, listening, maybe offering a calm word, maybe just offering silence and letting her know you're there. That's what acceptance looks like. And ironically, that's what calms her down faster than any fixing or controlling ever could. When you resist her emotions, you create more storms. When you accept them, you bring calm. And the more calm you bring, the more she trusts you. She starts to feel like, I can go through anything with this man because he doesn't run when it rains. He doesn't get scared when I'm not at my best. He stays. And that kind of trust is what makes her want to give you the best of her. That's what makes her respect you, desire you, and stay connected to you long term. So the next time she's emotional, don't fight it, don't panic, and don't take it personally. See it for what it is, weather. And instead of trying to control the sky, be the steady ground beneath it. Because storms don't last forever, but the way you handle them will define whether she feels safe with you or not. And when a woman feels safe, she will always find her way back to the sunshine. At the end of the day, no matter how much her feelings shift, no matter how much her desires rise and fall, what she really needs is for you to be steady. Think about it. The weather is always changing, but the ground beneath never moves. The sky can pour rain, it can flash with lightning, it can shine with sunlight, but the ground doesn't argue with it. The ground doesn't try to control it. The ground simply holds steady. That's your role. You're not supposed to control her emotions. You're supposed to be the steady presence she can trust while those emotions move through. A lot of men think strength is about domination, about controlling the situation or forcing things to go their way. But real strength in a relationship is in stability. It's in being calm when things are emotional. It's in being present when she feels disconnected. It's in being consistent when her desires change. That steadiness is what makes her feel safe. That steadiness is what makes her come back closer after every storm. Here's the truth. Women aren't looking for perfection. They're not even looking for a man who never makes mistakes. They're looking for a man who doesn't crumble when things get tough. A man who doesn't lose himself when her emotions shift. A man who can remain grounded no matter what the forecast looks like. That's where respect is built. That's where trust deepens. Because when you stay steady, she realizes something powerful. She doesn't have to hide her emotions from you. She doesn't have to pretend to always feel good around you. She doesn't have to filter her storms because she knows you won't run from them. That kind of safety is rare. That kind of safety is what makes her open her heart, give her affection freely, and trust you with the deepest parts of herself. Now, let's be clear. Being steady doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting yourself get walked all over or accepting toxic behavior. It means knowing who you are so deeply that her shifting emotions don't shake your foundation. It means holding your frame, holding your boundaries, while still giving her the space to feel. That balance is where true masculine strength shows up. Calm but firm. Present but not needy. Loving but not controlled by her moods. Think about the men who lose it when their partner pulls back. They panic, they chase, they beg. Or they get angry, defensive, and start arguments. That reaction tells her one thing: this man can't handle my emotions. This man isn't steady ground. And if he's not steady, she doesn't feel safe. But the man who stays calm, who stays grounded, who doesn't overreact, that's the man she can lean on. That's the man she respects. That's the man she feels drawn to even when her emotions are all over the place. It's like this: you can't control the sky, but you can control how you stand beneath it. You can't stop the seasons from changing, but you can choose to be rooted in who you are no matter what season you're in. And when you live that way, her changing moods stop feeling like a threat and start feeling like part of the natural rhythm of love. You stop fearing the storms and you start appreciating the sunshine even more when it comes back around. The truth is, every relationship will face storms. Every woman will have days when she's not at her best. Every man will be tested to see if he can stay grounded when things get rough. And the ones who succeed are the ones who stop trying to control the weather and instead focus on being unshakable ground. Because in the end, that's what women want. Not a man who bends with every breeze, not a man who crumbles in every storm, but a man who stands steady, unshaken, consistent. A man who provides the one thing the weather can't provide itself: stability. So if you want to be the kind of man she trusts, the kind of man she respects, the kind of man she chooses again and again, stop worrying about controlling her emotions. Stop taking her storms personally. Start focusing on being steady, calm, and grounded. Because no matter how much the weather changes, she'll always come back to the place that doesn't move. She'll always come back to the ground that holds firm beneath her feet. And when you can be that steady ground, no storm will ever be strong enough to shake the bond between you.